G'day, you absolutely cracking humans. So today I promised a how to vlog. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to teach you guys how to vlog from woe to go, right? So I'm going to cover a lot of bases today. We're going to have to rapidly go through these things so that we cover off pretty much as I can that I've learnt in my 220 vlogs. Even before you buy equipment, like the confidence, things like that, right? So I get a lot of emails from people and they're worried about people making fun of them. They're worried about what their family will think, what their friends will think. You've got to get over that, okay? Like, they will accept you in time. You've just got to do it, right? So family and friends, don't worry about it. You have to, if this is something you want to do, you just do it. Even if you feel like you look like a dick, just do it anyway, because they will get over it. At first, like at the end of the day, your family and friends want to keep you the same person. They don't want you to change. They don't want you to get weird. So they'll put all these measures in place to make sure that you stay the same. But what I've personally found is that my friends were like, my close friends were sort of looking at me when I first started vlogging, and they were like, dude, what are you doing, right? But over time, now that they've seen the channel grow, they've seen what come out of it, the Tour de France, the fact that I was sitting on the back of a motorbike in the Tour de France, and they're like, man, this is amazing. And I rang one of my mates today and he was like, mate, I can't stop watching your vlogs. So this will evolve for you too. So you need to push on, right? The other key thing I was going to say is, if you are going to start doing vlogging, you need to commit to it. You need to do it daily or at least consistently, all right? If you're going to do it, make sure you commit to it. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. Like, you're not wasting your time, you're learning stuff, but you really need to commit. If you're going to do something, commit to it. Walking around holding the camera to your face, walking around talking into a camera, right? It's quite embarrassing. So when you're out in public, people are going to look at you and think, you know, he's a bit of a weirdo, but they don't understand what's going on. And quite often they're actually more interested than looking at you like you're an idiot. They're sort of looking at you thinking, oh, I wonder what he's doing. Oh, he must be a YouTube vlogger. So don't worry about that stuff. Like, after you do this a few times in public and stuff, you'll be fine around your family and friends. It'll just second nature. The other thing is your personal confidence to the camera. So it took me ages. I would have to do multiple takes on looking at the camera, say something, I'd really be awkward, or I'd say something stupid, and then I'd have to do a retake. You may have to do that 5-6 times in the first few weeks, but after a while, like this here now, this is one take, right? Yeah, okay, I stop it and I'll cut stuff out and I'll edit, right, in post, which I'll show you later. But for the most part, I try to do one take, because time is of the essence, especially when you're doing daily videos, and especially when you've got other commitments in life. You really need to be time conscious, okay? So you'll eventually get the confidence it takes to do what I'm doing, you know, talking to the camera constantly. All right, so all you need to start vlogging is something like this, little point and shoot camera, a Canon G7X. It's a pretty inexpensive camera. You can get them for like $700-800 here in Australia. The little fluffy thing on top is just to stop the wind noise. So when I talk to it, when I'm moving and you've got the wind coming, you don't get that sound, that extra sound. And you couple it with something like this. This is a Joby tripod. You can put it on the tripod like that, and then you can carry it around and sort of talk into it. Flip that screen up and you're good to go. You can see yourself and whatnot. Right now, one thing I will say, a lot of people think that, you know, a iPhone is good enough for vlogging, or a GoPro. This is the black, or you've got the Session, right? Look, these are good cameras. They're great cameras, but they're not good for vlogging. Number one reason is you can't see yourself when you're vlogging with this. Actually, no, you can see yourself. That's a lie. But the problem with these cameras, the cameras on the iPhones or the smartphones, is the lens isn't wide enough. You know, at least with this lens that I've got on this camera, I can really get the surrounds in here. So if I'm walking down the street, I can show you where I'm at. With these, it's not wide enough. It sort of zooms right in your face, and that's about the only thing you see. And with these, it's too wide. You know, it's like this big massive fisheye. The other major drawback with devices like these is the sound. The sound is terrible. People vlog and they put their fingers over the microphones. You get all that wind noise and stuff. So you're just better off going and investing in something like this, and it'll take your vlogs to a point where people will want to watch them, you know. If I see someone vlogging on a GoPro, I don't want to watch the vlog. I don't care how good the content is. Personally, I just cannot watch someone vlog on a GoPro. The wind noise is terrible. I can usually barely hear them, and that big fisheye effect is just irritating. So, just my thoughts. There's the Sony RX100 Mark IV. This is a good camera, but it does 4K footage, but the screen scratches easy. The build quality of this isn't great. I'm not a big fan. I've damaged that as well in a crash. So I really like the Canon G7X. So that's the camera I'll get. That flip screen feature is critical. You've got to be able to see yourself when you're talking to the camera. All right, so another important thing is lighting. Lighting is important for you guys, obviously, to see me. It's also important for the camera. The camera will struggle to autofocus if it's quite poorly lit. I'm in my kitchen now, it's the middle of the day. There's a few things I could do in here. I've got the lights on, and I could obviously turn more lights on, so I've got them sort of dimmed down at the moment. So let's see what that looks like if I come back after turning the lights on. All right, so you can see that's a little bit better. I've turned a few more lights on around the room, and I'm a little bit better lit. But the best thing to do is, especially during the daytime, is you can open up the curtains, you can use the natural lighting. So let's have a look at what that looks like with the curtains open. All right, so you can see I've got the curtains open out. It's a beautiful day outside. I've got the natural lighting coming in from the right-hand side. And so, you know, this isn't, you know, there's obviously lighting specialists out there that would say, oh, you know, I'll do this and this and this, but it's just important to get an understanding of natural lighting use. You can see there's a contrast between this side of my face and this side, so I think that's a good thing to be able to do that. So lighting is very important. The other thing is, if you're going to vlog, you know, step outside in the daylight, and you know, where you're well lit. Try to always be well lit. Try to always make use of lighting and where the light's coming from. You could even use a little lamp, sort of situate it behind the camera, point it at your face. You know, things like that. So there's plenty of tutorials on Google, on YouTube, on how to get lighting. I personally don't have any photography lighting. I'd like to get some down the track, but for now I'm happy using natural lighting. Now, should I shoot in 1080p or 4K? The answer to that is always, if you are doing a daily vlog, 1080p, even 720p, right? You want to have small files so that you can work with them on your computer and then output them to YouTube, all right? Or wherever you're putting your videos. If you're doing a weekly vlog, yeah, do 4K. That's fine. 4K is a much bigger format. It's a much bigger file on your computer. It's much better quality. But 4K is not ideal for daily vloggers. If you can do keep the files as small as possible so that you can work with them quickly and you can archive them on hard drives and stuff, then definitely 1080 is the way to go. Now, shooting in 25 frames or 30 frames if you're in the States or in Europe. No, Europe is PAL and the United States is NTSC, right? So 30 frames or 25 frames, they're roughly the same thing. They give the effect of real motion. So you've got sort of this real motion thing going on. You can see that there's a little bit of blur when I move my hands. I'm shooting right now in 50 frames, so everything's quite real, you know. Even when I shake my hands around, you can barely see any blurring. But if I was to switch this to 25 frames, you would see a little bit of blurring. So I would advise shooting, I mean, I shoot all my vlogs now in 50 frames, right? So 1080 50 frames, which is 60 frames in the States. You know, there's nothing wrong with 25 frames, and 25 frames is a little bit smaller file on your computer, so it takes up less space. So let's talk about gear, right? I have got a Phantom a DJI Phantom floor, which is loaned to me by a company in Adelaide called Model Flight. They're an Australian company, so if you ever wanted to buy one of these, go support those guys. They support me. So what I'm actually shooting on now is my Lumix GH4. It's got a Rode microphone on it. The microphone sound is very important, right? So you want an external microphone so that it sort of captures that directional sound. And if I was in a cafe and there are other people sitting around, this microphone really captures my voice as I'm speaking, and then if I turn the camera around, it captures the voice in that direction. So a directional microphone is definitely the go. I recommend the Rode Video Mic Pro. This Lumix GH4 is a fantastic camera. It's got a flip screen on it, so I can point it towards myself, and I really like flip screens on any camera when it comes to vlogging, all right? Now, as I've already discussed, my little point and shoot Canon G7X Mark II. I've got a Sony RX100 Mark IV. It's sort of broken, the back screen doesn't work. I can't see anything out of that, so I have to, every time I use it, I have to flip up the little viewfinder, and even that is broken, but it still works, right? I can still do 4K footage on it. I sometimes use my iPhone if I'm desperate. I never use the GoPros for anything other than on-bike footage, and sometimes a time lapse when I'm sitting inside. Sound is very important, so I try to use a microphone whenever I'm doing an interview. I will point that at the person I'm interviewing, and I'll use this as the microphone. Things like mounts, these are really important. I love this little bendy mount for the GoPro. You can put it on the bike, you can put it on a wall and ride past, you can do all sorts of things. So this here is awesome. In terms of tripods, I have got this one here, which I use with my Canon, my little point and shoot. I just pluck that on there. You can actually just remove that. It's got a little level. So this is good. You can sort of wrap it around things. They're not bad. The upgrade to that is this one here, which is what I put my Lumix GH4 on. This is just a better quality. They are Joby. They're the way to go. Now, lenses. This lens here is a pretty generic 12 to 35 millimeter lens. I actually prefer this lens, which is a 7 to 14 Lumix lens. And what that does is it really opens up this surrounding area around me. So this is what that 7 to 14 lens does. It sort of opens up this whole surrounds, so that if I'm walking down the street, you guys can really see what's going on, okay? You know, if I'm vlogging, if I'm pointing the camera, like I'm zoomed right in now, okay? This is as far as it zooms in, and I zoom right out. I can really allow you guys to see what's going on around me if I'm sitting in a cafe, etc., etc. So I like the wide angle lens. I like wide angle lenses. I have a telescopic lens as well, which is great for getting those long B-roll shots. And when I say B-roll, that's the footage that I put to my music. So I'll have some dialogue like I'm chatting now, and then you'll see some B-roll of me riding my bike and doing this and putting my bag down and da-da-da-da-da. Might have a telescopic lens of some people walking, bit of a time lapse. So that's what I use a telescopic for. I rarely use this one here. I swap between this Lumix wide angle lens and the telescopic. So now I'm back on the 12 to 35 millimeter lens. The reason for that is, you know, things like, it's just a really nice lens for this sort of thing where I'm sitting in the living room. I can talk to you guys, I can zoom in, you know, I can show you things. It sort of focuses in on me. You can also get a great bokeh effect, so you can get the blurring. If we were sitting somewhere outside, I could get a nice blurring effect because of that low aperture. I've got the aperture set very high. Another thing with vlogging is you want to set the aperture quite high. When I say high, I mean not 2.8 or 1.8, I mean, you know, 6 up to 11, because you don't want, sometimes what you can do is you can have your nose in focus but your eyes are out of focus. And when you're vlogging and you're moving the camera, it's not ideal. So I always set the camera into aperture priority, and I set a higher number aperture. I don't really quite understand all this stuff fully because I'm not trained in it, but I set a higher, you know, higher number, say 11, 8, and that way you get that deep depth of field where things aren't out of focus when I'm vlogging, okay? Now, that's about it. In terms of other equipment, I've got little tripods. You know, I put something like this, an iPhone on this one here. This one specifically holds onto my iPhone. So all those little things. I've actually got a spare Lumix camera, which I use for the telescopic stuff. You know, it's just easier. Obviously, I've got very fast cards in all of these cameras, and that's about it. That's enough for equipment. I think I've covered everything. I've got this camera sitting here right now on a three-legged thing. I think the the tripod is called, but I rarely use this tripod. I mainly use this one pretty much for 99% of the things that I do. You can put it anywhere, you can hang it off anything, you can wrap it around a pole, anything, okay? So that is a fantastic tripod. Let's go check out the software.